every service, let's research that. Every service ain't for everybody. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so let's talk about how every service is not for everybody. I think this is important on so many levels, really from just an expectation. And, if you have a good service provider, they are going to explain this to you as well. But I think it's important for us to know this as well, even from the perspective of getting the service done. So yes, I have a dog in the fight because I provide services, and a lot of times, and I'm dealing with services that can really change the game for women, you know what I mean? And so when it comes to things like that, it's important to have a realistic expectation and understand that just because you've seen someone on YouTube, or if you've heard your girlfriend, or if you've seen your coworker, they had the service done and they are raving about it and they absolutely love it and they had the best results from it, that does not mean that, number one, that service is for you, and number two, that you're going to get the same results. So let's actually be specific. Let me give you an example. Let's talk about brow lamination, okay? Now, brow lamination, oh Lord, brow lamination is all over the intranet, right? Like, you see all these beautiful pictures of these big, thick, full, fluffy brows that just look slick and shiny and just look amazing. You want it done, right? Especially, if you're like me and you really went way too ham on thinning out your brows back in the day when it was a thing, and so now you have none, So if you're like me, you see something like that and you're like, oh, that is for me. I'm about to get into that. So you go and get the service done. Hopefully your service provider was honest and upfront with you about the service and let you know, A, if you're a candidate for it, B, what the realistic expectations were, and C, how to maintain it. So if I were to take these bald brows of mine and try to do a brow lamination, I would be very disappointed. And let me just be honest with you, I did. And I was. Okay, so, why was I disappointed? Well, number one, the whole purpose of a brow lamination is you are basically perming the brow. You're doing a chemical process on the brow that keeps it in this up position. Like you put different it's like a 2 or 3 step process that you put on depending on what brand or company you use, but it's a 2 or 3 step process. But at the end result, you are perming your brow to stay up like that. What that means is you gotta have brows, and your girl ain't got it. Your girl just ain't got it. So in that case, if I were to go and get a brow lamination, and let's say my service provider wasn't honest enough with me, because the truth is they should tell me in the beginning I'm not a candidate for it, which again is okay. And the whole point of being a service provider isn't necessarily to give your client what they're asking for. Your whole point as a service provider, especially when it comes to being like an esthetician or cosmetologist or something like that, your whole goal in servicing someone is to give them what they need. And, it's a skill on flipping that around and making sure that they're satisfied. But that, that is the goal, because, people will come in asking for stuff that you can do. With what Mother Nature gave them, you just can't do it. So your job is to talk them and lead them into the direction of getting as close as possible to what they want, but really what they didn't know they needed. So just going back to the brow lamination, if I were to do that, if I were to go try to get that service, again, number one, my service provider would be very upfront with me and say, T, girl, this ain't for you. This is not the service for you, girl. Let's figure out something that will be, or let's see what we can do for you, right? That is the original conversation. If she lets me get all the way to the point of actually getting it done and being disappointed, that's different, you know what I mean? And I think also this is a good time to insert. Can you guys see that? This is a good time to insert right here, speaking directly to my service providers. You know, if we explain to the customer or to our client or to whatever you call them, your girls, whatever you call them, if we explain to them up front true expectations, what they can and cannot expect, what you can and cannot do, what they have and what they do not have, when you communicate that information up front, you have done your job. You have done your job, girl. You have done your job. You have done the service. You have been a great service provider. You have done right by your client because you told them, you gave an explanation. Now, if you skip this part and you get to the end result, which you know what it's going to be, going specifically back to the brow lamination, if you let me come in there and get a brow lamination and you don't explain to me, T, girl, this ain't for you. You ain't got no brows, but here's what we can do. Here's some other directions I think you should go in. If you skip that step and you get me to the point of doing a brow lamination and we're done and I don't see the results that I want, which me and you both knew was going to happen, but you just risked it. If you get to that point, that is when that is our fault. Do you understand what I'm saying? That at that point, as a service provider, that is our fault for not knowing any better. And if you don't know any better, then now you know. It's all about experience, right? So I'm not going to hate on everybody because, if you're a beginner like me, then yeah, you're going to have to figure that stuff out along the way if no one told you, if you haven't already experienced it. But if you get to that point and that customer's disappointed, then again, if you don't know, now you know, figure it out. But if you did know and you did it anyways and you were just chasing the dollars, that's you. And that means you got to fix that. We're not flowing in the right direction. Does that make any sense? We gotta let them know up front, be as honest as possible. And I think a lot of times we will find that just because we are pretty much turning down one service doesn't mean that we can't help that client in another way. So I think we really have to keep that in mind when it comes to that perspective. So going back to the brow lamination, I'm just not a candidate for it. And so that's a great example of a service that's just not for everybody. If you ain't got no brows, brow lamination is not for you. Yeah. So just because you had a peel, or just because your girl had a peel, I'll wipe this off before I did this brow. Just because your girl had a peel and absolutely loved it and had amazing results, that does not mean you're going to get the same thing. It doesn't mean your face is going to peel the same. It doesn't mean you're going to get the same results. It might not be as aggressive. And honestly, it just might not be a procedure that you need to put into your skincare regimen. So, definitely, you definitely want to, in this day and age, especially us as women, we are trying to DIY everything. And even if we're not trying to DIY everything, we are of the generation of knowing way more information than we ever did. We know a little bit more about skincare. We know buzzwords about vitamin C and, niacinamide and things like that. Like, we as women nowadays, even if we aren't experts in it, we have some education in the situation. So for us, it's hard not to be like, I saw this and I heard about this, let's try this. And that, I think the better, more, what's the word I'm looking for? Probably the better approach, there you go. The better approach to that would probably be, hey, I've been redoing some research and I've been looking into chemical peels. What is that? And, is that something you think would be good for my skin, then that's a conversation that you take to your skincare specialist, and she can really help guide you in the right direction. Maybe that is not for you, but something else would be great for you. And that's great, because then you're letting your skincare specialist know that you seriously care about your skin, but that you also respect the knowledge that they're bringing to the table, and you're really just trying to have some conversation with them. You're not trying to force anything. It's really just your way of opening up the conversation. So that makes a fantastic client, and that makes a very happy service provider. Let's see. All right, guys, I'm taking way too long. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm taking way too long. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna speed forward. All y'all saw me do is put on my brows. But I'm taking way too long, and I gotta get out of here. So let me go ahead and finish up. I will come back on here, and we will finish up this conversation. All right, guys. So this is the finished look. Y'all know your girl been keeping it real simple. And remember, I have a face mask on right here, so really just pay attention to this part up. Yeah. So I overestimated how much time I was going to take talking about this particular topic, and I overestimated my skills as far as getting ready and discussing something at the same time. So just recapping, just remember, as a service provider and as someone who's actually receiving the service, so as a client, all services aren't for everybody, and that goes across pretty much all kinds of things. All skincare isn't for everybody. Every single facial procedure isn't for everybody. Every single new brow trend isn't for everybody. Every single lash extension look is not for everybody. So really, definitely bring your knowledge to the appointment. Bring your knowledge to, your service provider. Bring your knowledge to your esthetician, to your lash artist. Bring that to them, but have open conversation, and make sure that when you are bringing that information to them, you respect that expertise. It's a conversation. You're dropping some information, they're picking it up, and they're walking you through the steps. And also from, the other perspective, the service provider, the esthetician, the lash artist, we have to make sure we take onus on ourselves in educating our clients, in talking with them through the procedure. It's not as simple, okay, I can do that, or it's not as simple as what you want. It's really having that communication, talking with the client, understanding what they're looking for, and understanding what you can deliver realistically, and working together to get to that point where everybody's happy and they keep coming and they keep dropping them coins. So I hope this information was helpful. I know this was a get ready with me fail, but I feel like the information was still good and something you can take away from either perspective that you're coming from, and you got to see how I did this look. So I hope this information helped someone else out there. If it did, please give this video a thumbs up, and while you're here on my channel, take a look around, see what else your girl has to offer, and if you're liking what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.